Welcome back to Caffeine Confessionals. My name is Allan, and today we are here to talk about the Challenge 40 Battle of the Eras, Episode 7. I'm joined by my lovely co-hosts. We have the Vermontian Zoe Trimboli,
Hi, everyone.
the Southern Liquency.
What's up, guys?
Last week, we did our episode recap, and we talked about how last week's episode, we didn't hate it, we didn't love it, but we said we felt like it was building up to something, and we were hoping for something big this week. And once again, it feels like we're building up to something. So not like the greatest episode in the world, but hopefully next week's episode is the greatest. I just hope we're not I just hope we're not looking back in a few weeks being like, man, those episodes really were nothing.
Yeah, Tina carried for me this episode.
I said before we started, I felt like palpable tension throughout this episode. And I don't know if it was like me projecting or if there was just like this underlying tension between everyone in the house. I enjoyed it. I don't like every episode doesn't have to be like fireworks because then like I don't know, maybe I don't know what shows like that, like Bad Girls Club or something, but like I enjoyed it. I thought there were some really good moments like in the daily challenge and some good like drama between people, and we'll get into it, but I enjoyed it overall.
It reminds me of your analogy from a couple weeks ago about recess and fun activities with kids. You got to take it away at the right moment. However, you've eventually got to give it back. So hopefully next week we get our recess back. And it's been fun watching the other kids play from a distance, but I want to jump into more action.
Yeah, let's jump into it. Episode 7, we open with Devin's birthday that Tori threw for him. Now, I was perplexed. Tori wore a Devin costume, but the Devin costume was just dressing up exactly like Bob Ross.
I think she had it, and it was like, let's just roll with it.
I didn't quite get it as being Devin. It didn't quite look like Devin, but Tori's weird. She's always going to be weird. Like, I enjoyed starting off the party.
You know, and house parties often don't do it for me. This was actually like funny for me. Ryan and Derek as strippers in wigs, like full blown like throwing ass literally in Devin's face. I felt like there was camaraderie. Cara Maria gave a speech where she like gave a nod to "Are You the One?" It was cute.
Jordan's little confessional about like the strippers and how he like has to have that performance again. I just thought was like so unexpected, and the delivery was so funny. Like, amazing effort by those two. Might be the most impressive thing they've done this entire season so far.
I mean, this is what we wanted, though. I mean, we were talking about like a few episodes back, like we like when they have fun in the challenge house, and it seems like as the game goes on, they lose the fun. So I'm glad that, you know what, episode 7, it's still going on. Hopefully we get a little bit more fun going on in this house.
Yeah.
I loved every bit of it.
Guys, talk about anything before we move into the daily challenge?
Not that I can think of.
All right. Daily challenge. Era 1 is down to 4 people. So everyone in this daily challenge is participating in the normal way. Players are jumping off of giant skyscraper buildings with their flags. 4 players from each team will be representing each era. And those who aren't going to be jumping off the platform will be doing a puzzle. The other 3 teammates will try to reel the person who's jumped off the skyscraper back up the building, and so forth. The team to accomplish all of this in the fastest amount of time wins the daily challenge. Something I appreciate. We saw era 4 go first, and it took them a long time. It took them nearly an hour, which I think gave us fans a perspective of how difficult and long this daily challenge is, because you're just thinking about the teams who are watching the players literally compete for an hour before they even get to go.
I would want to go first. I know that there's benefit to not. If I were jumping off that building, well, first of all, I wouldn't be jumping off that building. That's why I couldn't go on the show, because I'm sorry, no, there's not even a chance.
Not even a little bit.
Not well, if there was a net beneath it, perhaps. But like I was like looking for like a safety net. Where was it? Like you can have 3 carabiners with bungee cord wrapped to it. They could all fail. I need another safeguard that's beneath me.
I'm actually glad that you're bringing this up though, because I think there was some moments through this daily challenge where I was so like impressed and had my breath taken away by people we know are terrified of heights. Like I was emotional, not gonna lie. I was so proud of some of them. But I felt for Josh having to hang there for so long. I was like, I know Josh is like tall and like a big guy, but I don't feel like Josh is that big. Do you think he was the one who actually went first?
I think he had to. So here's the thing. I think after Josh went, they probably changed like the pressure on whatever they were doing to pull them up, or maybe gave them some help because Theo went after him. We know like Josh is a big dude. Theo's even bigger than Josh. So
Yeah.
how are they pulling up Theo with more ease? Or maybe it took them even more time to get Theo up and they just edited it much quicker because it is just easier to make fun of Josh.
Poor Josh.
Yeah.
It's really nothing, literally nothing he could do in that moment. So it's like you can't even blame him. He's just hanging there.
I watched the episode on the treadmill. Like as I was running, I was like falling over because the heights freaked me out so badly. If I were hanging like that, not to mention anytime any of them got pulled up in like the platform, I'm like they're gonna hit the platform and their carabiners are gonna pop off and they're gonna like. So
Wait,
props to all of them.
Luke, do you do roller coasters?
I do, but it's been a couple years and that feels different to me
Yeah.
because yeah.
So I do something really unsafe with roller coasters because I'm deathly afraid of heights, but I can get peer pressured into going on them. I close my eyes the entire time, which apparently you're not supposed to do.
Why
With
not?
like, because like knowing when to like brace your neck and stuff like that, you get like whiplash and stuff like that. Something someone was explaining to me. But yeah, I'll be going through a whole roller coaster with my eyes closed, literally for however long it goes, and then my eyes be like, yeah, fun, and I'm like, no, but I went on because you asked me to go on.
Well, here's some Luke lore nobody asked for. When I was 13, I fell off a wire bridge, like a swinging bridge that was 30 feet above a dry creek bed, and the cable snapped. And me and like 9 of my cousins fell. People broke backs, have scars still like on their face where the cable like snapped. Like I got up unscathed, have no memory before 7th grade, realistically. But like that's why I don't trust cables, wires, bungees, whatever. Yeah,
Oh my
Wow.
God, that's actually really scary.
it is.
That's more interesting than the episode today, and
Well,
it wasn't a bad episode. I'm more fascinated by this. Uh,
I have
oh
no
man.
more stories.
yeah.
Alan, when you were talking, I was just thinking about how like things that you didn't have to do as a child, you have to think about as you age, like bracing yourself for whiplash and stuff. Like,
Yeah. Okay.
wow.
Arrow 4 goes first. Josh, it takes them forever. Eventually, but yeah, it took them. They showed a timer at times during the daily challenge, which we appreciate. We don't get the full official times, which is what we all want. But the idea that there is a timer is always nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, add some credibility. Like, I don't think production is trusted by the fan base at all. So,
And they could manipulate if they wanted to, but like I would much rather see the era 4 losing era 1 if that were to happen. But yeah, I was happy to see the timer.
yeah, me too.
Era 2 goes next.
Can I say before we move to era 2?
Yeah.
I was happy to see Olivia know her strengths and step aside when it was time for the puzzle. Like, I hope nobody like says like you didn't contribute. That was so smart to not be a busybody in the way who clearly knew that was not going to be her strong suit.
And also with a puzzle that limited, like what, there's 6 or 7 pieces. You don't need 3 people. It starts to get more complicated the more people you add in.
Yeah. Sorry. Era 2.
No, good job. Good job, Olivia. Know your role. Era 2 goes in. It's Nehemiah, Laurel, Bananas, and Aviv jumping off, and they kill it for the most part. I would say that Era 2 had two standouts. One of them is, and it was the doubt that the whole team had, is whether or not Aviv was going to be able to reach the flag. Because, I mean, she's 5 foot nothing, and that's being generous.
Literally.
She's a bit older in age. I mean, she looks great, but she's a bit older in age, and she hasn't competed in a daily challenge like this basically her whole life, or like in at least 16 years. So she really had to get a good jump going just to even reach the flag, and she got it done. So like, good on her.
Yeah.
I was thinking about when I was watching her, like just working up enough nerve to do it, right? And then like to actually have to like jump and grab something, which is not a complicated ask. Like obviously like you can do that on ground, like no on the ground, no problem. But like I was just thinking to myself, like I would be the person that would work up the nerves to run and jump, and then I'd just miss the flag completely. Like that's entirely possible. So for her to get her tiny little 5 foot body, I know she's a gym rat, but still, like props to her.
Yeah. And
She
props
went
to
last.
editing. She did. And props to editing for showing her flag like floating away, like with the wind. Like she had to jump even further. And she might not have, but like it looked like it.
Yeah, going last is even tougher because it means you literally have to be even more precise on when you grab the flag. Because if there's more, you could grab extra, like Tina accidentally did. But even then, like I wouldn't have blamed her if she grabbed extra.
Yeah.
Like I'm like I could never, like I'd be terrified to do that. So if I grabbed an extra one, I mean that's just adrenaline and stuff like that. I'm not gonna blame anyone for doing that.
Yeah.
Totally.
And the other standout for Era 2 is that Derek Chavez solved the puzzle in 2 seconds.
As he was handed the pieces. That was incredible.
This is where I wonder during the daily challenge if you watch the other teams going and you maybe can even just see it, because maybe he just like deduced it from watching the other team go for like an hour, or just had enough time to look at the pieces just overall. Regardless, super impressive. Just a good standout moment because he's very much been off the radar other than when he's throwing ass at Devin's party.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what he could actually be doing otherwise. I think we'll talk about it later, but I think he's doing exactly what he should be doing in the game thus far. Boring TV, great for longevity.
If production was going to get accused of rigging anything in this episode, it was that Derek, Ryan, and Cara didn't have to jump for Era 2. Like, that's really trying to set up the win for Era 2.
Yeah.
Then we had, I think, Era 1 go. And I mean, this was their best performance of the season. They all gave 120%. Tina got 2 flags, unfortunately. There's a few big things on this one. One is that Darrell had to overcome his fear of heights, which on All Stars 3, he did not even go on like that little skyscraper trivia challenge, sent himself directly into elimination, got eliminated by Jordan, overcame that fear here big time. And because of Derek only having one leg, he had to go jump out and get the extra flag. So on top of all the fear, he had to athletically be able to go out there and reach the bonus flag.
This moment alone, and I'm going to sound like an old head, but like this moment alone made this episode a little bit better than just okay for me, because I was annoyed watching it. Like, here we go. They're going to throw this. Era 1 is going in. And he did it. And I had to laugh at him the whole time, holding his eyes, just waiting to be pulled up. But like, that's a big deal. That's a huge win for him.
That man is petrified of heights. Like, that's when I say I got emotional, I did get teary-eyed because that was so brave. Like, and the fact that he like mentioned saying to his kids, like, when you're uncomfortable, that's when you grow. And I was just like, oh, that was it. Do we think that was the scariest jump in other than skydiving in challenge history? Is there a scarier jump than that?
Jumps, I don't think there's a scarier one. I would say the scarier challenge is the one when they X's2, when they're in the climbing the ropes at nighttime across the skyscraper, and they did fall, but they weren't jumping. But that one was pretty scary.
Yeah, I was just so thoroughly impressed with Jarrell, and no matter what happens in his challenge career, from here on out, like I think he should be really proud of that one because that was really cool.
Yeah. I feel like if this is the last time we see him, which it might not be. It might be because I mean they're getting kind of old as we see. It's a nice thing to end on. And I had to think too, like how embarrassing, not embarrassing, but disheartening would it be to have your kids sit down to watch it with you and be like, guys, just precursor, I didn't do it again.
Yeah.
As opposed to having them watch it and then be like, oh, you did it for once. So I was elated for him. Derek, okay, here's what I will say about Derek. He is a beast in terms of like hobbling on one leg. I had to wonder though if he was going to like say, can you make me the target? Can you switch me in? Like, I'll fight for my place here. And I'm not faulting him for having a pregnant wife back at home. Like, they have their own agreement beforehand. He's making money. Like, do your thing. But I like, I don't know. I wonder if he could have said, could I be the target this week instead of Jarrell? And I'm getting ahead of myself, but like we're talking about how great he did on one leg, which I loved. But part of it, and dare I say, part of it feels selfish to me.
I was gonna say I don't think I think Derek, I have the utmost respect for him.
Right.
He takes injuries and stuff like this like a badge of courage on this show. But I think he's actually being selfish right now. Because we've seen players break their hands and continue to play in the game. But you could have a broken hand and you could still run a final. You could still solve puzzles. You could still eat gross fish juice. If you cannot run a final on one leg, there is no realistic chance that Derek can still win this game. And I think production letting him continue to play with whatever is going on, like he's literally running on one leg. Like them letting him continue to play, it just you got to DQ that man and let someone else just stay in the game. That's a free elimination right there. And Rachel at one point said, like, I'll take a player with one heart over a person with two good knees. And as I'm watching Derek hobble, I'm just like, I think I just rather take someone with two working legs in this scenario. I would.
And I understand that at this point in the season, bringing in an alternate would be like, but also like it adds to like the fun of the season. I love when they bring in alternates. It seems like for the past however many seasons, aside from Amber B, we've had alternates sometimes on location. I know on this season they weren't, but like, why not use them?
I mean, I would say just pull a Rivals 3 and bring back one of the guys that's already been eliminated. Like that's a really easy fix for as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And we like total respect to Derek. It just you cannot be competing on one leg like that. You just can't.
And if he's fine next week, I'm going to talk smack about him like I did last week.
Yeah.
They also made Tina solve the puzzle by herself as like they didn't let the whole team work on the puzzle for some reason because they were not obviously they had the four people and then like other teams had multiple people work on the puzzle. I was just confused by that, and Tina was trying her best and she got it done. It seemed like she didn't have all the puzzle pieces at first either, even so that was an issue.
Yeah.
I don't get the point of punishing them further there, like, because like we already said, any more than two people isn't a benefit. It's not an advantage. So just let her have one person to do it with her. I'm guessing it would have been Rachel. Not that any of them are puzzle aficionados. The other three.
Darrell the tangerine puzzle expert.
Right.
Oh, I love it. It's one of my favorite quotes.
Era 3 then goes, and Era 3 just, I mean, they absolutely crush it. I mean, the big thing is, I think, the question was Naya, because she has refused to do heights challenges in the past too, multiple times. And I think Naya even said it herself, like, if this was an individual challenge, I'm taking the DQ, I'm going straight into elimination. But she does feel like obligated to her team and Era and Jordan, and so she's like, I'm gonna do the jump.
And I was happy. I almost said not to make this about me, but that is what would make me do it, is knowing that somebody else is depending on me. But you could see on her face the second that she got picked, like she was disturbed. I was really happy to see it.
Again, I was so proud of her. It was the second time I got emotional watching this, and I don't even really like her that much. Yeah. Like, but I just think there is something so beautiful because if you've watched this show, like you said, Allan, she's just refused to do, like, I think heights challenge over 20 feet of water, like not scary things really, and she's refused to do it. So doing this one, I was just like really, really impressed. Like I'll be the first to like make fun of someone for not doing something and like chickening out, but I will also give credit where credit's due because when you have a fear that's that crippling to go ahead and do that, that is remarkable to me. I'm so impressed.
And good thing she's like a 6'1" former volleyball player, so she didn't have to reach out too far for the flag. Um, but huge credit to her and Era 3. I mean, they really benefited from. I mean, nobody on that team is too big, but they're all very strong too as well. So they just worked like a well-ironed machine because it was Naya, Jordan, Devin, and Tori.
Yeah.
Devin's probably the heaviest guy on that team, and so I mean,
And he's not heavy.
Yeah, they crushed it. And then Corey and Avery were competent on the puzzle. Corey's been competent on puzzles this season. I mean, from the beginning of the Era Invitational to now, if Corey can be decent on puzzles, he's a real contender to win, in my opinion.
Riders really helped him so much.
This is true.
Because I was watching it with my husband, and I was just like, he was like, "This isn't that hard of a puzzle." I was like, "You don't know Corey." It doesn't have to be hard, but he did it. Him and Avery worked well together. They figured it out fairly quickly. I mean, no one's going to beat Derek in this puzzle, but solid effort.
Yeah.
We get the final results. Era 4 loses. So Era 1 finally not last place in a daily challenge. Era 3 gets the win again. Barely sneaks the win, and it's a very interesting outcome because Naya and Jordan are in power.
Which means Jordan's power.
Yeah. Kylan and Michelle going directly into elimination. And the expectation, I mean, I don't know what the expectation is, but I do think that a lot of fans at home were to assume that Era 1 would finally get a break because, I mean, they're weak and they're feeble at this point. They're broken. They haven't ever, keep those people in the game, keep them in the game because it's, it gives your team a better chance to win the following week because they're not doing well.
This fan at home thought Era 1 might get a break this time around.
I did until I realized who was going in on Era 4.
Yeah. So let's talk about this. Era's 2's targets would have been Nehemiah and Aviv. And then Era 1 had Darrell and Tina. If you fans at home don't know this, Nehemiah and Naya are like platonic soulmates. They are like ridiculously close. And like their friends are mad that they aren't like an actual romantic couple. Because like that's how intertwined they are.
Yeah, as of yesterday, Tuesday, they were like actually hanging out together and like calling each other like maybe even platonic soulmates. Not to mention, Naya is banging Kylan, wants to give him someone he's confident in. And then Jordan's not going to piss off Devin by giving, not that Tina is a slouch by any stretch, but like, I think Michelle is more confident against Tina than Aviv.
Aviv, who helped Jarrell win Fresh Meat by 3.5 hours by racing through those puzzles.
Yeah.
Like, I know that was a long time ago, but your brain doesn't decay at all.
No.
Let's just talk about that outcome actually, because they have the deliberation and it's very clear that Naya's going to save Nehemiah. But I do want to talk about the idea that if Era 2 had won and Nehemiah and Aviv would have been in power, that would have been an interesting situation because Aviv might have wanted to save Darrell on Era 1, but Darrell did kind of throw her under the bus already, like all the way back in episode 3, and Nehemiah would have wanted to save Naya. I don't think that Nehemiah and Aviv would have stalemated to throw themselves into elimination. So we probably would have still had the same outcome, even if the winners would have been swapped, I think.
And I get where people are coming from too with like who has the potential to pay back the favor. I do get that. I think it is a smart gameplay decision. And I think Era 3 is sitting really pretty because they're earning a lot of favor from their two biggest competitors who I think are more likely to want to take shots at each other.
Mhm.
I'm really interested to see when this game is going to change because I can't imagine we're just going to completely decimate Era 1 and can continue on in this team format. So that's got to be coming. Maybe that's the tension we're building towards.
Yeah.
It has to be, because I feel bad for all the OG fans because they're gonna feel very like targeted and upset that they're like their favorites and their legends are getting thrown in again and again. Era One are the players who like built this show and they deserve respect. Um, at the same time, this show was built upon easy votes. If you watch the Gauntlet One, the first season with eliminations, Sarah Grayson got voted in 5 times. She got thrown in. Like, people have always made the easy votes, and unfortunately, Era One are the easy votes. And it's no longer about like not coming in last. It's about who can actually repay the favors, like Zoe's saying. Era One just gave 120% the daily challenge, and they barely came in third.
I'm actually so glad you said that, Allan, because there is some karma to that, right? Like they created this whole system of taking the easy way out. And I'm not holding individually the players on Era 1 responsible, but they did lay the foundation of this show and it's coming back to bite them in the ass.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, let's talk about Devin a little bit right now, because I do think we had the very interesting scene at the when they're at the bar, the club, whatever, and Corey's asking Devin like, "So are you going to self-nominate next week based on the rotation we've been like keeping up in this game?" And Devin basically says, "Well, if Michelle wins, there's just no world where she's going to nominate me, and why should I self-nominate myself?" Um, I think that makes sense, even though they got the rotation going. I see both sides of their arguments.
It makes complete sense, but like if the tables were turned, it would be Devin would be losing his mind.
I thought it was funny because I think it's really maybe I don't have an accurate read on Michelle, but I think if Devin just simply said you have to put me in, she would.
Yeah.
Right.
He seems to like be really playing this up to Corey, like she just would never do it no matter what I say, and I'm like, okay, I'm here for Michelle to wear the pants in this relationship. That's totally fine. It was weird that Corey said, and I don't know if this was just an editing trick, right? Like it could have been from a different week, but he's saying like he's the one that's really like carrying the burden of this. And like, you were on the chopping block once so far. So like, why is this such a hardship for you? You got last in the rotation. I know that you did have to go in. That part's a bummer. But like,
I love Corey this season. I I think he's. I don't think he's. I think he's pre-mad because he can read the signs of like we're talking about things are bubbling. Corey is someone who can see the bubbles, and he's like, oh, it's gonna pop up on me right now, so I got to start making noises. I got to start making moves before it happens. And so we're seeing Corey mix it up with Devin. We're seeing him mix up with just a whole. Like he's just angry and he's just taking shots and I appreciate this version of Corey versus the guy we've gotten on the last 4 seasons who's been going to finals but been pretty boring. This is the most interesting version of Corey we've had on the show in a while to me.
yeah, absolutely. He should be feeling his feelings. Do you think that he is more frustrated because he's going down there potentially with Avery because she's also next in the rotation? Whereas, like, I think going down and being a target with Tori is a form of protection because she's a stronger competitor. So, like, you're less likely to get thrown in with Tori as your partner than you are with Avery.
That's true. I forgot she was there.
Corey's mad at a lot of people. He's mad at Bananas. He's mad at Devin. He's mad at Jenny and Josh. He's
everyone but Nehemiah.
they're in their own little world together. But I like Corey when he's angry. I like, because I do think he's a really good competitor now. And I've seen a lot of people just take shots at Corey as a competitor. And I don't think they're like, yeah, he doesn't have a challenge championship, but he's been really damn good for a long time and deserves like more respect. I mean, he's as good, if not better, than some of the champions on this cast.
Yeah, and I'll give him some credit too. I mean, USA too, he didn't do much. Which, by the way, Naya said in this episode she felt bad about the thought of throwing in Darrell. I forgot they were the alternates on location for USA 2 for like 4 weeks, like waiting to see if they would or wouldn't go in the game. That's a lot of time. But I will say, the season before that of Corey's was Spies, Lies, and Allies. It was pretty boring. However, had his plan worked kind of in game with the Veteran Alliance to get the rookies to start picking them off, had Priscilla taken out Ashley, that would have been a pretty good power move for him that probably would have brought him to the final and possibly let him win. But numbers just didn't stick, and they changed the format of the game too.
Well, and when you were saying like how impressive his game is, it's also like he's doing all of this without an alliance really too. So I think that's impressive. It'll be interesting to see how he maneuvers in weeks to come, because everybody else has these like massive extending alliances that are protecting them from all sorts of angles, and he is a lone wolf out there. He did do it to himself a little bit, but yeah.
And Luke always talks about like you love seeing the shared history between players and like the ongoing rivalries. Corey and Devin is like essentially like an 8-year rivalry now. Like they didn't like each other on Rivals 3. They didn't like each other on Dirty 30. Partners on Final Reckoning. Corey sends them home. Even Spies, Lies, and Allies, there's that like beef between them. They are cordial for now, but man, things could get dirty between them. And I'm sure Corey has probably a little bit of resentment that Devin has the title of champion now.
Yeah.
It's bubbling.
Yeah.
Back to Devin again, though. Bubbling. Because 2 weeks ago, Rachel. Last week, Bananas. This week, Corey.
He's in love. He's not thinking clearly. I actually loved when he said that he's more concerned about Michelle's game than his own. And it made me think that like Bananas is actually an idiot, because he's like so hell-bent on like blowing up Michelle and Devin to hurt Devin's game. And I'm like, the thing that's hurting Devin's game is his relationship right now.
Right.
It's so funny because he's actually helping her game and she's hurting his at the same time, and it's killing me. And Devin plays a game that's predicated upon him not having a target, not being the obvious threat, and now he's getting these like really strong foes who, even if they don't have alliances, they can win daily challenges, they can win eliminations, and they can take shots at him. It's going to be a scary game for Devin. But if Devin can find his way out of this and succeed, then he goes from being like a guy that like a good player and a champion to being like a true like elite player that we talk about as like a top 10, top 15 guy. If not, then he is who we thought he is.
Yeah.
I'm here for it. And like, I'm saying that acknowledging that he grinds my gears half the time he's on TV. Like sometimes I'm really rooting for him and really like invested, and sometimes I'm like, oh, I just want to dump a beer on your head. Like,
yeah, he'd probably love it.
No, he would love that. The better the player Devin is, the worse TV he is, and it's an interesting mix because I thought like he was his best TV when he was really not good at this game. Next up, what do we got? What do we got on the table?
deliberation.
Do you want to talk about? Yeah, we kind of breezed through that.
Elimination? Okay.
Michelle and Tina scene at the bar, was that?
I mean, we didn't talk about Tina's absolute. Well, I guess I don't know. It all runs together. This Michelle and Tina scene at the bar. It was sweet that Devin brought them drinks. Other than that,
I would have loved if like Devin was only buying Tina drinks and he was just feeding Michelle Waters. That would have been like a fun. That would have been a fun gag.
Michelle would not have had that.
No, she would have been like, "This is not my Aperol spritz."
Aperol spritzer, as he called it.
So you're alluding to the scene with like Tina's tirade, where Jordan and Nia decided to be like good people, or what they thought were good people, and giving like Tina the heads up of, hey, you're going into elimination, and giving her a hug. And I thought it was stupid because like you're just giving Tina an opportunity to curse you out, and also like you could potentially put a target on your game.
And they did it the wrong way. I mean, you don't go in there smiling, hugging her like, "Hey," like, and she was like, "Oh my God, am I saved?" And he's like, "It's because of whatever Jordan said." He said it's because of something. Which at first I was like, "Oh, so they're not picking her." And you could see on her face, she's like, "Wait, what?" Now everything she said afterwards didn't make a lot of sense because Jordan's rationale did, but I love to see her freak out.
It's just who she is, right? And it's like she's mad. She's never been one to mince words when she's mad. So they walked into that just completely, I think, knowing who she is, but maybe not. Maybe they just forgot. I mean, it was All Stars that she was banging pots and pans. Like, that's not that long ago in the scheme of things.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, Jordan's definitely like, he was crying during deliberation. He's really trying to come across as, and maybe he's had like some weird emotional epiphanies, so I'm not going to judge completely, but like really trying to be like this noble guy. Whatever.
Noble Jordan, so noble. It does kill me, like that deliberation scene where it's him and Nia just sitting at the end of the table, and it's just so crazy to think about compared to like 7-8 years ago. And it's like, yep, season 40, here we are.
Crying and telling people you love them so much. Like it was being laid on a little thick for me.
Yeah.
Tina got her.
Well, this is coming from the girl who cried because someone jumped off a building. So like,
Tina gets her moment, and then throughout the episode, we see Bananas openly complaining about the fact that Ryan has not been a nominee, that him and Nehemiah are going to be nominees back and forth, back and forth. It gets to the point that where he's vocally, openly just talking about it throughout the house, kind of just to get a rise out of Ryan. And especially Ryan curses him out back.
But it's just dumb. Like if Bananas were being kept safe week to week to week, he would not say, "Okay, let me volunteer." Like he wouldn't. He's just butthurt that he is the target. Like, sorry.
sometimes there's like a song I sing to myself. There's like a Green Day song, and the opening is like, nobody likes you. And then there's more, but that part I sing when there's like bad people who get exactly what they deserve. And like, it's twofold, right? Bananas is the best competitor on his team, and therefore other teams should be nominating him as often as possible. And nobody likes him.
Yeah.
And Ryan and Derek are friends with a lot of the girls.
And the reality is, keeping Ryan there, if you're one of the girls on the other team, keeps that team a little worse.
Yep.
It just makes sense on all fronts. And bless the girls, because Johnny Bananas does not give a fuck about any of them, so none of them should be trying to protect him.
At all.
I do want to do my little Bananas analysis here, though, of like, oh, why this is actually like a smart move type thing. Because I don't think he said that and Ryan is gonna be like, oh, you know what, Johnny, I am gonna self-nominate. I think he's more trying to get other people on his team to pressure Ryan to self-nominate. It's like if you it's like someone walking to a restaurant and being like, oh man, the waiter can't get me water. Where's my glass of water? And then Ryan just has a pitcher of water in front of him. Eventually, when someone else runs out of their glass of water, they're gonna be like, Ryan, could I have some water? Like, could you self-nominate yourself? And the question is, will he do it?
I think also you get the right non-confrontational girl in that position of power, and they're going to think, how can I make the least waves? And it's by putting in the guy that hasn't been put in since the first elimination of the season.
Yeah.
So, I get what he's doing. He's just trying to draw attention to it because it was just going on unspoken. There's a method to the madness. I know that. But I also, like Luke said, like, he would not do it if he was in Ryan's position, and he would make up some bullshit excuse too. So I just like to call what I see here.
Derek had a biting confessional about bananas, about like, just because we're playing the game better than you, just because, the game's coming back to bite you. But didn't have any of that energy and mostly just stayed out of the whole thing because he's playing smart. But
yeah.
And he's not the one really getting the shots taken because people see his value to the team, especially after that challenge.
Just not good for the fantasy league at all. Just not good for fantasy points for Derek.
Yeah.
Elimination time?
Yes.
Tina versus Michelle. Kylan versus Darrell. The elimination, I would say, was underwhelming again. I mean, it had an exciting finish on one of them, but we had another semi-physical, non-contact elimination. They had to pull these poles out of some walls, and then there's a bunch of sliding doors with numbers on them. Once they get all the sliding doors open, they then have to add up all the numbers, do the math, whatever's on the board, and then finish a code off. And it's math and it's physical, but it's kind of just underwhelming.
It's basic math. It's like no higher than 5th grade math. I know because I teach 5th grade math. It was embarrassing for the girly pops.
Would your strategy have been just to get through without even caring about the numbers, seeing the addition, subtraction, then going back and doing it?
No, I would have solved it as I went through because I could solve it in 5 seconds.
But here's what I'm saying. Here's where I was confused, and I should have gone back and watched before speaking about this on here. Did they know what, like, subtraction, addition, whatever they had to do with the numbers until they opened that flap at the end? Wasn't that on there?
It was next to the number. So it was like there was a starting number, and then it was like plus 35, minus whatever, plus whatever. And then when you got there, it told you to double it.
Oh, so they are stupid. Okay. Okay.
Because that was the final thing. It was like times 2. And I was like, oh, for the guys, is it going to be like times 3 or times 4? Like, but they saw what happened with the girls. They're like, we can't make this too complicated. They couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Tina and Michelle. Tina, kudos to her being in the best shape of her life entering this season because she beat Michelle physically. Hell yeah. Good for you, Tina. Neither of these women could do math. They were there for a while, and I just thought Michelle would be better at math. I don't know why. Maybe because she is a puzzle person, I just assumed she'd be better at math.
She does the New York games. She pays for the subscription, I'm sure of it, and does all the games every day on top of Sudoku, on top of every single thing that makes your brain work. As Zoe said, this was basic math.
I will tutor her once a week for free in basic math. Like, I just enough to like do this kind of stuff. Give her some simple strategies because, man, how many times did they go through there? 3 or 4?
Yeah,
3 too many.
Like what?
Michelle used to work as a bartender and a travel agent, and I just feel those are 2 jobs that like kind of involve math in ways. Like, I mean, you ever booked a flight and you just see all those like booking fees and charges doing the math? I feel like there's a lot of math right there.
Just vibes.
I was gonna say Michelle was probably a great bartender because no matter how someone tipped her, she didn't know if it was good or not. So she was just so nice.
Like, thank you so much.
They leave her $5 on 50, and she's like, "Oh my god, thank you."
Oh.
And I like that we're mocking her when she's the one who won the elimination.
Yeah. But kudos to her.
I mean, I was stoked.
Yeah, me too.
Devin was so cute pacing and like all nervous. I just think also for like the watchability of this season and for intrigue, Michelle's a better person to keep. But I am here for Tina's growth and her success on this season. I think she did so much better than, I mean, I like Tina and knew she was coming in shape, and she like obliterated my expectations for her.
This is a tough elimination because I think these are two like crucial characters to the show right now. Or I think Michelle's on the upward trajectory, and I agree though. Like I think Tina's mostly done everything she could, but every time she does a confessional, it brings an energy to the show that I enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll miss her.
This should have been
hoping Era 2 was going in.
Yeah. This should have been a headbanger elimination. And I say that because like you see these two women and you're like, oh, it should be something like puzzly. That's more like to where they'll be good. I think sometimes some of the best physical eliminations is when you throw two people who like you wouldn't think would do well on them. I think Kim and Susie on the Ruins is the greatest pole wrestle ever, and I don't think of either of them as like great physical like headbanger type people. I think Jemmye and Latoya on Free Agents is a great balls in elimination. I just think sometimes when you throw two people out of their comfort zone, because when you have those are two hungry people too, like Michelle and Tina, they probably bring something out of each other that they don't know they have.
Mm-hmm.
Even like something like the Maddie D elimination from Total Madness, like having to like dig through something like that in that sort of physicality would have been interesting to see these two do. Doesn't have to be like an actual headbanger, just give them something other than bombing at math.
It was underwhelming, and I'm mostly happy at the end of the day that Devin was not able to like win the elimination for Michelle. I'm glad that like Michelle had to do it on her own, because if the crowd had just won this elimination for Michelle, it would have just had everyone just feeling some type of way, especially like Era 1 who already feels so kicked on, and they can't have an elimination without it being controversial.
Yeah.
Michelle should be very happy actually it wasn't Aviv in that elimination with her.
Right.
Yeah. Darrell and Kyland. Darrell's back is better. I mean, like that was the wonder is like, okay, is he slowing down? Is he physically hurt? Darrell beat Kylan in this elimination from a physical perspective. I would not say that Darrell lost this elimination based on a rookie mistake. He lost it based on a veteran mistake. Because he was so caught up with not trying to mess up the numbers, so caught up with not trying to be precise and methodical, that Kylan just came up there and snuck the win.
Yeah, he just didn't trust himself. It was actually really sad to watch. I knew that Team Zoe was losing a guy no matter what this episode, so I was a little bummed. But I, while really loving Darrell as a person, was rooting for Kylan because I just think it's like more interesting to the storyline of the show. But when Darrell got through, I was like, oh, he's gonna do it. Like he's gonna win. And then like trying to create this perfect chalkboard on the ground in the sand to write his numbers in when you're just doubling a number.
760 times 2.
60 times 2. I was like, there's not even a digit in the ones place. You just have to double the hundreds and double the tens.
He looked disgusted by like himself when he said it out loud to himself. And I do think there's gonna people who are gonna say that Darrell threw it because of his back. But you just saw the disgust on his face of like he was just so mad at himself that like that I don't believe he threw it just because of like how angry he was at him like inside.
Yeah, I was gonna say it. I don't think he did based on his reaction afterwards. But there will be people that say it. But you know what? If his back really was hurting so badly, I couldn't fault him. Like
there was a half-second moment where when Kylan was like turning around and getting close, I thought Darrell was going to lose the elimination because he got up to like go press the buzzer and put the number in, and his back would have given out. And I thought that would have been like the most mean way to see someone lose an elimination.
Yeah.
No, he was just dusting off the sand and they'll make it look real pretty. And I do think that like Darrell had this like mental gap in part because of all the stuff he's been dealing with physically, because he gave 110%, and maybe when you overcompensate like that, you kind of get thrown out of the whole mental side of things. Um, Time catches up to everyone, and in this case for Darrell, it's Kylan again.
Yeah, that was a bummer. And it was just like he just wasn't. He knew who he was up against, and people are calling Kylan the calculator, which I think is like a little bit much. But like you had to know that you had to be putting the numbers into the lock before Kylan got there. Like you had to know you had to be doing that because I assumed was going to solve it on the way through.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's a lackluster way to go out. I'm glad Darrell had that big moment earlier in the episode because I think that was important. It was just kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
How would you guys have felt if like Darrell had not dusted the sand and just cleanly beat Kylan very anticlimactically, just walked up to the buzzer, got it done, and then Kylan's gone from the season now?
Well, like Zoe said, love Darrell, but like Kylan being there does more for the season. And just as like Derek doesn't look like he can win a season now with his leg, Darrell's back could go out again or get worse. I feel like Kylan could win the season.
Yeah, I think if I'd watched Darrell walk up and win that way, I would have been like, oh, damn.
Yeah.
Like, we already lost Horacio a few weeks ago, and it's like, oh man, the thought of like a new gen winner is like out the window now.
Yeah. Yeah, it would have been mixed emotions for sure. But yeah, it would. I think you're right, Allan. Like lackluster elimination, because no matter the outcome, it was like just like grimacing and like.
Yeah.
Is this the issue when you have the night of the eliminations and you use Hall roll, Paul Russell falls in, and not so fast Hall in episode 2, and now you're just trying to come up with eliminations? I mean, there's more in the bag that you could go for, but we lost some good headbangers.
Use them again. Nobody would care.
No one would care. Seriously. Come up with some other version of it. There's still some good ones out there too. Like I feel like Total Madness had some actually good eliminations. The
Genitori one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
I love a good wacky elimination personally. I love the blind fencing elimination from Rivals 2. I just think it's so dumb, but also like there's a strategy to it. There just hasn't been like the things they're doing. They're just not entertaining me.
Yeah. I don't know why I love the elimination with the pegs on the wall and they have to like reach over and like tip the thing over. Like I'm thinking Kayla and Jenna on Dirty 30.
Yeah, and Emma and Tony. That was a good one.
Yeah. I don't know.
I'll never forget like Tony complaining in the like redemption house about losing to Emma. It's like, oh, he's so light. It was so easy for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are things they could go back to pretty easily and that are low budget. They're just I don't know what they're doing. I hope we get back to a good elimination next week.
Yeah, and let's talk about next week because we got the targets again. Something we have not hammered on this podcast, and I've seen a lot of people complain about, very rightfully so, is that Era 1 has always had to get their targets done first, which has then allowed Era 3 and Era 4, like Naya and Michelle, to like be like, hey, I'll go into elimination when Tina is, and instead of like when Laurel and Rachel are going in. And that is unfair for Era 1 that they had to deal with this the entire game, and now we're down to Rachel, so there is no longer any like choice of who's going in, but that was unfair.
Yeah, they could have done it by how they finished the daily before.
Or just had a rotating like thing every week, like, all right, this week 1 goes, next week 4 is first, next week 3 is first. You know.
Yeah, just mix it up.
Targets. Rachel and one-legged Derek. Era 2, which I will say, insane that they're going to be competing next week as a team of 2. I predicted last week that like if they're down to 3 people, team format's gonna be gone. They're going to be competing as a team of 2.
ridiculous. I hope, I don't think they're going to, but like if they did a challenge that they split all the teams into pairs and like just the best pair wins, like you get one from whatever, I would like, or like if whatever, that's the advantage. Era 3 can have 3 sets of pairs or 4 sets of pairs, however. I don't even remember how many people are left. That would make sense to me, but they're definitely not going to do something like that. They're going to do something janky probably. So yeah, Rachel and Derek are forever the targets as long as they last.
They're going to be in elimination next week too. I'm willing to say that right here, right now, because there's just no way they're winning, and they're going to be the easy vote again, regardless, even if they somehow don't come in last. Kyland picks Kara as the target for Era 2 over Laurel. As we've like kind of mentioned before, like Kyland was like maybe kind of into Laurel, and they got like a bond, and he was one of the only people comforting her after that whole fight a few weeks ago.
I mean, it makes sense numbers wise for Kyland, I guess. I don't know. This didn't bother me that much.
Michelle then says, well, she doesn't want to nominate Bananas because she's close with him. And Derek steps up as the nominee because he also knows that if Ryan steps up as nominee with Kara, then Laurel's going to throw the daily challenge. So he wants to make sure that Laurel doesn't throw the daily challenge so that Ryan isn't out. So good on Derek for stepping up.
He's an honorable man.
Next up, Era 3. Devin did not step up. Corey gets picked. He's not happy about it.
But I do want to say, Michelle said, does anybody want to volunteer? And I believe if Devin said, I will, she would have said yes, despite Devin saying she still wouldn't have. It's like, no, she would have.
I'm here for it.
Yeah, me too. Adds an element. Frank went live on Instagram the other day, and he was like, the dumbest thing people on the show decided to do was volunteers to do a rotation. Mm-hmm. Like it takes out a big chunk of like what could have made that interesting.
Avery then self-nominates, and she says a lot of words in confessional of like, "Oh, people don't think I'm strong" type stuff, but I am strong.
Anyways,
it's glad to see she's back on the show. It's like I thought she went home and they just didn't explain it. After
I think Avery is in big trouble next week.
There was just so much potential after Pervert for Sherbert, and then it's all gone downhill since.
Yeah.
Era 4. Casey and Olivia are like, nope, not me. So it's Jenny again.
I love it. Like that. Finally, that's what we're saying. Someone use what they're working with to their advantage. I respect the hell out of it. And I also think it's forcing Jenny to have a personality a little bit because she's pissed.
Yeah.
Again, Avery should be terrified. Like, yeah. That is the lineup you want to be in.
Yeah, I like Jenny when she's angry because she only has 19 letters in the English language when she is. So it's like she's working with it, whatever she can. Theo finally steps up for nomination.
That's a formidable pair.
Yeah, that is a formidable pair. I mean, people are not going to want to anger them. They're going to have a good chance to win again. So that means we're going to have Theo, Derek, Corey, and
Derek.
Other Derek as the elimination opponents. Derek Kozinski better hope that it's a puzzle elimination for the first time in his life. Because that leg is bad, or he's been faking having a bad leg and just been waiting to like use it at the right moment. Like Zoe's been kind of hoping almost at this point.
We'll see.
Yeah. Or he hopes that they pity them and they don't use them to go in, or they somehow can win the daily. I don't see it happening, but I don't know. Scenes for next episode. Looks like Derek's making some enemies, or maybe Corey is. Maybe that's some build up we've been getting to.
Yeah.
Finally, that challenge. Yeah.
We're getting, it seems we're getting the Riot Shield challenge from Cutthroat. If you don't remember this, this was the final daily challenge of Cutthroat. Competed in teams of 3. People had Riot Shields and you had to knock them off a platform. The last team standing wins. Derek had a famous performance actually in this daily challenge where he took on 3-on-1 and he had a massively bloodied face. And this was a very dangerous daily challenge where people were very bloodied after. Super dangerous, but also I'm happy with bringing it back at the same time.
I love this challenge. And if there's any challenge that I think Rachel can win solo, it's this one.
Mm-hmm.
Well, especially if you play it strategically and you're like, hey, I'll team up with this era type thing and just kind of stay off to the side and you just hope that it's like you and one other person left at the end, then maybe she could sneak a win. Might be Derek's strategy because, I mean, Corey seems to be really mad at Derek in this daily challenge. Maybe Derek's leg is okay now, actually, because how could Derek be getting that physical with one leg in this challenge?
Yeah.
He threw his safety vest at Corey. He was so mad.
They got some beef. Because, I mean, Derek took countless shots at Corey on his podcast for basically 7 years and made him a punchline. And what do you think, Luke?
I'll say it after we finish. I want to be respectful and professional.
I'm excited to see those two come to a head because, again, shared history. We love shared history. We love rivalries on the show. See them go at it. Nothing really else to say. Anything else? Anything else before we end this episode?
No.
Subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Twitter, wherever you get the podcast. Things are bubbling. Hopefully next week it all blows up. We're getting a cool daily challenge regardless. Thank you all for listening.